And good morning, this is Bogi again for Bogi Flies. And here I am at the Kaneohe Marines Combat Air Station, whatever it's called, I don't know the exact name. Today, well, I will be flying something different. I'll be flying the Harrier. And, well, I'm not really an expert with this plane. I mean, lately, all I've been flying was the Cessna 172, so I haven't been flying the Harrier in a while, so well, you'll be flying with me. Basically, it's a practice flight. I also have kind of profiled the mission for it. We will be emulating a close air support with cluster bombs. Aircraft has been actually given 4 Mark 20 cluster bombs, if I remember right, and 2 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles. I also have a gun pod, jamming pod, and actual electronic countermeasures against air-to-air missiles. The plane is actually in a cold and dark state at the helipad because it does not have the airport in FSX does not have more than the helipads and the fuel box. So I'll be just basically using what I have at hand. The plane is also in a cold and dark state, and I'm going on a full internal load, so we won't be going a very long range. We'll just be basically taking off to the north, turning about 260 degrees, and going to a small island out where we will actually drop our weapons. Remember, this is a RASBAM Harrier. The weapons aren't really functional. Basically, bombs will just disappear on drop, while rockets, for example, and missiles do fire, but they don't really do anything else. This is not a combat simulator, it's a flight simulator after all. So to start the engine, well, this is the basic procedure I've always followed. This is assumed the plane has been loaded, pre-flight check has been completed, but we'll basically set the battery on. You can see here the electrics coming up, the UCF, and the gear landing light. This plane has 4 pieces in the landing gear: main, wings, and nose landing gear. Then we'll be performing a DC test, which is basically electricity test. Then we'll be starting up the generator, and we'll be preparing the plane for flight. This plane comes with an APU. You can hear it starting up. And now I can actually start using the equipment, namely the UCF. I will go to the IFF mode. Basically, it's off, and I will enter 7700. I think this is, if I remember right, this is a military code. Again, no expert. And I'll set it on. Next, we will set our displays. Basically, check left and check right. We will go to cockpit resolution views. We will enable our displays. We will set this for daytime, flight nighttime. We will be clicking here. Let's see, STRS. This is showing us our weapons: 2 missiles, 300 rounds in the gun, 4 bombs, and so on. If we go to menu, we can also access the engines here. Basically, I will use this for takeoff, then we will switch to the usual weapon selector when we approach the target otherwise. And my habit is that I use the leftmost, the right display for actual navigation. Wait, okay, this is my navigational display. I'm going to set it on, and it has different modes, of course, but in our case we will be using the EHSD, and it's on standby mode because our INS navigation system is not ready. We will be moving on to align the INS navigation system. I also remember I'm using an Xbox 360 controller. I do not have a joystick, which is that part. I have to hide the yoke to see these controls, but basically at this point we'll be setting this to align on the ground. And if we look at this display, we will see that it actually came on. We don't have any waypoints, so because normally in FSX you can only use IFR flights, so I'm just using it what I have. I'll activate the radar system, and we will be using everything on the HUD display processor. Let's see, the probe heat, and we're not going to use FLIR. We're having bombs, no laser guided missiles here, so no. We will be setting our radio system, and this will set the mode basically for it. I'm not really familiar yet with the communication system for the Harrier, so I have not really used it that much. For engine startup, we will actually make sure that this thing is not away. Basically, it's a pistol hold lever. We'll be activating the stabilizer systems now. These help with the autopilot, and the autopilot of the Harrier is actually extremely simple. We'll activate console. Oxygen systems are okay. Let's see. Fuel proportioner, this is actually important. It needs to be on. And we'll be setting on the outdoor light, outside lights. Formation lights. Oxygen on. Kinda needed. After all, we would basically just suffocate if we don't have it. Fuel cutoff. Okay. Finally, we will proceed to start the engine. There's only one switch here, basically. We have here is the fuel indicator. We will see here the 7600 gallons, and this is the wing tanks. We check here the engine indicator. We see our nozzles are set to 0 degrees. One of the important things before takeoff, if I remember right, nozzles do need to be set down to 10 degrees even for conventional takeoff. We will be using conventional takeoff. Our plane is a bit too overloaded for short vertical takeoff, so for vertical takeoff, so we will be using that. We are in VSTOL mode. No, we need to be in nav mode here, and we will set the flaps on. They are automatically set to 25 degrees by the aircraft system because we are on the ground. Here's the weapon, basically, management panel, and here on the right we will have the radar warning system on in case we get targeted by ground air defenses, and finally the HUD, which you will see here as come online. It's in navigation mode. And let's see, what else am I missing? Oh yes, the landing lights. We will set them to. It's off at the moment, so we will set it to this mode. Anti-skid test. We'll test our anti-skid system. Then we will put it on. Let's see. Landing gears down. Okay, at this point we'll go outside and verify our control surfaces. But of course we will have to have ground crew taking this for us, but we do not, so we're just simply outside view for the plane. This is the Harrier. It's really far. We will be using runway 04, which is my. I have to make a right turn, then taxi all the way to the runway. Let's verify we are in the right place. Yes, actually left turn, then the runway. And you will be with me to this flight. It will be very fast because this is a quite fast aircraft. It's not supersonic, so don't expect it to go 400, 500 knots here. I will go maybe 400 most. Okay, TCN. Forgive me for a moment. I do need to check the end of the Harrier's manual for the frequencies. Let's put this to our TCN is TACAN, but FSX does not support TACAN network, so we'll be using actual VOR DME stations. If you remember, I have mentioned VOR before in my previous videos, and it was frequency 93. TACAN uses X and Y channels, namely, so we will be setting this 93. So clicking the enter button to save it. 93, enter, and we will set the TCN as on. This is an DME station, basically, nothing really out of the ordinary. Okay, let's verify our TCN, system's okay. Let's set this to nav. Now we can actually see here the same information. The TACAN station is somewhere behind us. It's actually an NDB, but the Harrier does not have an NDB receiver. I think it does. I'm not exactly sure, so. Left fuel pump, let's boost the pumps. Normal. Check our advisory lights. INS is aligned. At this point we can actually shut down the APU system. We will be flying only on engine, and we will rely on it only to provide our power, and we will actually start taxiing. I'll move to the outside view. You actually get to see the scenery around Hawaii. I'm using the default FSX scenery, nothing really special. I don't really have any scenery for Hawaii. It's usually where I fly the Harrier. I simply like the tropical island scenery, so. Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite views, the right wing cloud. You can actually see quite okay. Now let's go to the cockpit. Let's verify left. No traffic at this airport whatsoever. I'm also not flying online. It's an offline flight. In my case online, I would not be allowed to use this kind of flying because it counts as special operations action, so it's not really permitted. On VATSIM, if you're a member of Virtual US Air Force, for example, you can fly as military aircraft for military operations. However, I can. Also, Harrier is only flown by the US Marine Corps in the US, so I do not have the British version from RATLAM, I just have the US one. I would definitely recommend this plane if you really like combat aircraft and FSX. The British version, actually, there are differences. It's not an identical plane. It has, for example, more weapon stations. It can carry more weapons, more air-to-air missiles at least. And here we are lining up with the runway, and we'll be setting throttle to idle again, and setting the parking brake. We'll verify left. And right. Oh, here on the left you can actually see the air-to-air refuel probe. I'm not really that good yet, so I haven't really yet tested the air-to-air refuel system but once. I wasn't able to connect the tanker, so I left it for later training. This is one of my favorite military aircraft in FSX, and I would like to thank people at Transcom for actually making it. I've always liked the Harrier since I've been into aircraft. I've always liked the Harrier. The idea of vertical takeoff landing has always fascinated me. It's why I also like the F-35. Dino Cataneo does an excellent one. F-35B if you like it, the Marine Corps version or Royal Navy version. It's also an excellent aircraft. But now we will be setting our power to full and releasing the parking brake, trying to stay centered to our brake. Not sometimes plunge to the left or right. We'll be monitoring our speed constantly, which is now at 100 knots. It should be airborne at 150. And pull up. With an 8.6 motor, it is a bit unstable, so it's a bit difficult to fly. Once we reach a higher altitude, it will stabilize. Let's try not to crash. On takeoff, that would be shameful. Even though I do have stabilizer systems on. Let's pull the gear up. Well, now it's a bit better. It currently has stabilized. At 200 feet, well, expected to be climbing to about maybe 4,000 feet for this operation. The whole thing of the mission will be basically close air support. I used to fly close air support in DCS, Digital Combat Simulation, with an SU-25 cockpit. I may fly again, but my computer's not really good enough to handle that simulator, so. And let's cut power to about. This is easy. Actually, let's cut power to about. Maybe. This is sometimes a bit unresponsive. 79% should be fine. The Raspberry Harrier is actually quite demanding on resources, and may cause my flight simulator to crash. It has done it a few times, but it's an overall good aircraft, and if you have a good rig, I would definitely recommend it. As you can see, it's not exactly nice when your flight simulator stops responding. Here, but I have to wait for the flight simulator to actually wake up. But hey, let's give it an excuse. It's early morning, not the end of the world. We're 260 here, and then we'll be maintaining this heading, then turning south. We'll be maintaining visual approach. Normally, I would have people on the ground, basically indicating approach vector or something like that, or an AWACS, but this is flown by me manually, so it's probably the best thing you've seen in terms of combat operations. For me, this is simply practice, so 469 knots is not too fast. Okay. Conditions should be okay. This is a VFR flight, by the way. It's basically, I'm not using any form of VFR. Most of them keep skipping down. I have no idea why. I've had better success, for example, with the Aerosoft F16 pod. It's much more stable than the Harrier pod. I really like the Harrier. I mean, I've done low speed flights multiple times, so it will be quite a long flight actually. Well, let's try to climb to about 4,000. We set that up. It's 3005, I think. Can we do this? speed here, use the shift key to activate the AMCS and altitude control. That's about what the plane will eventually stabilize at the altitude I was when I activated the AMCS. And you can see the mountains of Hawaii basically after flying down 4,000 feet. I'm not sure how tall they are. And it's pretty much at this point I would have had to execute an IFR sortie. And let's set our nozzles to 0 during conventional flight. And let's verify. NDB has not been identified. High altitude. NDB, let's check. Where we're flying. Well, let's stay on this side. I'm gonna go over the mountains at this point. And I will be using the map. I don't have an actual printed map, so. Okay, let's verify our position. You will see a black screen at this point because I kind of have to use this. Yeah, we're flying relatively correct. 4,300 feet, 180 knots station. Flying over another airport airspace. Flying this plane with an 8-box 360 controller is a pain. As much as I love it, it's a pain. It's quite beautiful scenery, I'll give it that. Okay. I've never really conventionally landed a Harrier before. I have done vertical landings, which, well, we might actually do. I'll just, if you want to practice carrier operations in FSX, I would definitely recommend the AI Carriers add-on. It's free. You can actually download multiple ships for it and use them. It has arrestor cables, catapults, and all the bells and whistles you need for carrier operations. Our destination is up there. Yeah, it's there. Okay, and flying the heading 262 400 feet. This plane doesn't have the conventional systems you might actually expect to see in an aircraft. It does have, of course, a very basic autopilot and a GPS that doesn't really follow FAA basically regulations. Being an American plane, even though it's based on a British Harrier, it's produced now, but it's no longer produced, but basically it's still maintained by Boeing. It will be replaced by 2016 by the F-35A, F-35B, apologies, and well, I still think it's a pretty magnificent aircraft. Dino Cataneo's planes, though, are actually, I would definitely recommend them, and the good part is they are free. So there's nothing really to lose if you get them. Cut the power a little bit. Okay, our RPM is 100. I don't want to fly that fast. See that right? Carols. If I have to land on a carrier, of course, we will have to start dumping fuel because the plane actually will be too heavy for vertical landings. Just to check my storage on the cockpit. For the F-35 in parallel, for example, you need to get about 20% fuel to be able to vertically land on a carrier. Pretty much fuel dump. But if you want to land on a carrier, especially like the US Marine Corps amphibious assault ship, like the Wasp class, you need to basically be light on fuel, otherwise the engines won't be able to handle your fuel load, and vertical landing will not really be the best idea. Okay, let's check our positioning, and let's check the flight simulator map. We are basically almost there. We can already see the island. We are going to a smaller island ahead, and we will be actually having an ingress vector from the east to the west on a smaller island. So we'll be actually turning up here. Plane on a gentle turn. This is not a fighter like the F-822 Raptor or even F-35. This doesn't really do well with aerobatics. It's actually the limitations that it has for maneuvers are quite strict, but I understand why. It's not meant to do those things. The advantage of this plane and its successor, the F-35A, will be basically the ability to perform short and vertical takeoffs, which in the case of fighting style of the US Marine Corps, which is primary operators in the US arsenal, will be very good, because it basically can just land like a helicopter, get rearmed, refueled, and be out there again providing support for the rifleman on the ground. That's the primary role of this aircraft. It always has been. Close air support. It can fight air to air, but it's not a fighter, so it won't really be the best choice if you want to go in air to air combat. It's, for example, yeah, I could show you also the after refueling system, but probably that's something else in the video. I did say I would fly about 500 miles, 470 knots. I'm not flying at full power here, and I'm flying at about, I think I'll be shortly, I'm flying at about 75%, basically cruise level of throttle. Now I'm basically flying on autopilot and keeping it steady, so radar warning system. And at this point I would be approaching the area where I'm supposed to enter the combat zone. So I'll go here, and I'll move to check right, check left. And we'll be setting this to electronic countermeasures. We'll be choosing primary. Chaff flares and okay, we'll go back to the ECM menu. And go back to normal flight. Once we approach the target zone, we'll be switching that display to the store management loader, so stores management system. Let's set this into the C mode. Transmit anything to the NDB, so or Bogi and AV. That's our target. You can see there in the distance it's the island where we'll be actually dropping our ordnance. And the Harrier does have, for example, two automated autocannons, 30 millimeters, I think. One in the gun pod that can attach to the plane, and one in the right wing glove. It can actually use for strafing guns. And let's continue flying on this heading for about 2 more minutes. Then we'll be proceeding to enter the combat exercise. So let's call it this. Combat exercise, not actual combat. Okay, let's check our ECM systems. Radar warning system is we can already set our ECM systems. Ready, and for example, if I had used rocket, I would have gone actually low, almost hugging the ground with this, but since I'm dropping cluster bombs, which, if I remember right, they're not really the most widely accepted weapons. I'm not sure how much are they still in use. I'm a bit out of date with this. I'll be maintaining actually dropping them from a higher altitude. Cluster bombs are actually a very terrifying thing. It's a bomb that contains, I think, dozens or hundreds of little bomblets that explode over a wide area, and we have 4 of them. So imagine this, I'm just saying from this perspective, dropped in a combat zone on top of an infantry unit, even if they are in cover. Anything caught outside will be torn to shreds by the cluster, by the little pellets inside the bomb, by the little bomblets. So yes, they are extremely dangerous. I don't know why the AV8 Harrier for the Marine Corps here has them, but probably they're still in use since it has them. I have tested this before with weaponry, namely with AGM-65 Mavericks, laser guided ones. Of course, that implied me having some people pinpointing with lasers targets on the ground and missile basically just locking onto the laser beams and doing their thing, but and we've turned a little bit too much here. I was supposed to follow the outline of the island, but this mission hasn't really been planned. It's simply just a mission that I've made up off the bat, so. And we will have to turn away here. We're a bit too much in danger of going into the mountains. I don't want to keep the altitude. I'm quite comfortable sitting in this one. But hell, let's change altitude. Hard to pull it up. The plane will go over the mountains. Yes, I don't know how tall these mountains in Hawaii are. So. Here, my altitude hold mode is on, so the plane will not really go as expected. I'll just follow the outside layer of the mountain, outside face of the mountain. And you can see it's full of trees. Of course, this is, as I said, it's not the real Hawaii. I don't have the scenery for it, so let's the mountain. island is somewhere there. And turning face west, so because we are performing an east-west entry to the combat zone. Okay, let's see, that's our target there. Okay, support will be in contact with the ground troops, with equipment, the riflemen that causes the most majority of the Marine Corps, and we'll be leveling off. And let's see. I'm using the autopilot here because it helps me actually maintain the altitude attitude of the plane much better. Here we go to menu. Set this there to ground mode, storage management, and here's asking me what do I want to select. Of course, I want to select the GPU, the Mark 20 cluster bombs, which I've already done by pressing the associate function button. Then I will be activating master arm, and let's see, mode automatic, use in quantity 1, and we'll be taking stations 2 and 5. Okay. 2 and 6. Multiplier 1. Okay, at this point we would be on the ground, communicating with troops with the ground, announcing our entry vector, and we'll be going about west-south-west entry. Basically, in their case, we'll be coming from the east-northeast. I've used this little island before for dropping bombs, so nothing will happen on the ground. I haven't tested the cluster before. Okay, at this point, we'll disable the altitude hold system and AFC and flying manually. And the plane is pretty stable. The autopilot left it for me in a pretty stable state, but you can actually go up and down now without problems. I don't know what this island is. Let's see, there's a target in the lowlands. They're performing the exercise, the mock exercise I came up with. And weapons are ready, weapons are armed. So 2 bombs will be going away. We'll be having 2 more left. We'll be dropping on another pass to the other side of the island. So we'll be basically exiting towards west here. Telling me to pull up. I will be pulling up shortly. This much. Let's pick a target. At this point we will be announcing that, well, my call sign is usually 103, so I'll be announcing it's 103. Basically ingress east-northeast heading 275, 276 in my case. Target acquired, and let's speed a bit, and let's go to the outside here. It's 2,600 feet. We'll be leveling off and well, the bombs just disappeared. There's no really visible effect on the ground. As I said, it's here we'll be basically going up again. And we would normally be dispensing flares in case they have heat-seeking ground-air missiles or chaps if they have radar, like missiles targeting us. And we will try also the gun. I have never tried the actual gun before. It's not a lot. Well, apparently planes is not much more stable. And low speeds. And now the ground troops will confirm target hit or not. These are not guided bombs, these are just basically free-fall cluster bombs. Once they are released, and we will be making a sharp turn here. for a sharp A turn. Sorry, bad joke here. And we'll be seeing if we can send the other target bogging to the other world. Okay, since this is on the other side of the island, we'll be heading nose down. And that's, I guess, we'll be announcing our ingress, heading north to south this time actually, and let's turn. Actually, we're going west to east. We'll be setting our plane on a correct approach to the target. And again, I'll actually demonstrate that the bomb simply just oh, they actually did fall, but there's no visible effect. Let's climb up. And at this point, we haven't really expended all of our ordnance. We'll level the plane off. We will be going back to the cockpit. There's 6,000 feet. And we're going to see our other weapons. We are out of GBUs, so we'll be selecting our guns. Gun is armed. I have not used it before, but it says none. So let's see. I might have missed something here. Will I should have in the other for the bomb release. I should have selected the new stations, but since the weapon was already selected. It simply just released the other stations. I'm not sure if it works like that in the real aircraft, but and if we press J, basically we are now on gun mode. This is air-to-air mode. Let's say if we have them now, we have to support against helicopters. I'd rather use my guns or the AIM-9 sidewinders. Turn back towards the little island. Very quickly. Going a little bit too much. There's our little island. We have 300 rounds in the gun pod. Remember, these are quite high caliber rounds. They're about 25 or 30 millimeter rounds. So whatever they hit, it will hurt. Again, as I said, I'm no expert with this aircraft. I'm still learning myself, so you're just simply watching me learn while relaying the things I'm doing. Now I'm only armed with the gun pod and the AIM-9 sidewinders. So I would be able to provide some support against, let's say, enemy helicopters, for example, but sending me against fighters would be a bad idea. I'm a ground support aircraft, not fighter. And let's basically go hugging the ground as the word goes. I used to play War Thunder, by the way. One of my favorite things to do in War Thunder was ground attack. I simply just like ground attack. I'm not really much for dogfight. And basically now I will have to activate the gun, but I haven't really mapped it yet, so I was thinking it works in the same combination key assignment as everything else, but we're at 700 feet. The Raspberry manual does actually mention what key you should press for firing a gun. I will actually double check with the manual I've received with the plane. It's right in the beginning. If you really want to know about this, I'll just relay it. It's not really a big problem. Yeah, J just selects the gun, and well, I haven't really Uh, Set the gun up, but let's try another strafing run. Let's go to controls, buttons and keys, and let's set the no smoking sound. Sign should be the gun, unless this is set for something else. Oh yeah, cabin no smoking should be good enough. And then we should be able to use the gun. This is for all events, so no smoking. We'll be using the left thumb for the gun. Let's turn around again. Sharp turn. This plane should be able to do it. Here's a ground attack. Oh, we were almost blacking out there. Too many G's. And we're coming for another strafing run. I forgot to assign the gun to any controls. It was my mistake. Let's see if the convoy works. No, it doesn't. Apparently it's set to bottom 1. Oh, the brakes. Well, go here. You can actually hear the
pull up.
And there we go, that was the... And we're gonna strafe a bit over the sea. Yep, there we go, we can actually see the strafing gun working. That would be basically shooting at enemy boats coming into the island. Well, this is new for me also, so way to go me! I was able to use the gun. We have 182 rounds. Well, we're in air-to-air mode, but I can still use this. Well, let's go. Let's go see the effects on the actual ground. The third Harrier. There's our little island, and our target will be those sandy-like surfaces. Because there we can probably see a little bit better what's going on. So A shoots the gun. Okay. Not sure if this is actually the gun one, I think, not the glove, wing glove gun. Let's go down and let's pick that target. I have no digital combat simulators or anything like that, so I'm just basically using flight simulator to practice these kind of things. Yep, the guns works just fine also on land. The guys at Raspberry have done a really good job to also add the weapon effect. I haven't seen any for the cluster bombs, so probably they do have some sort of effect, but you have seen the weapons falling. Basically they disappear from the plane and were put as droppable beneath it. So yeah, I think pretty nice. At this point we've completed our mission. Well, let's assume it's complete. And we set this nav again. Our weapons are offline, and we'll have to set the master arm to save. All weapons are now safe. We won't be using any weapons again. We'll be turning actually cold. Yeah, you can see one of my displays actually went to radar mode air to air. So and now if I can actually probably choose here the sidewinder and everything else, but well, we'll climb it again slowly. 4,000 feet. Well, technically, basically now I would just fly home, but if you guys want to see a vertical landing, I can probably show it. So, should we show our viewers a vertical landing for the Harrier? Okie dokie there. Then we will be leveling off here, and our first measure is to activate the AFCS system again. It's right here next to the stabilizers, altitude hold, and we'll be starting to and we're about 3,000 feet, and we'll be spawning the plane. Yeah, the plane is now dumping fuel, so we might still be a bit too heavily loaded for VTOL operations. Let's see. And let's see, I've never seen this plane actually have an animation fuel dump. I'm totally sure it has one. Yeah, you can see actually the model is quite high quality. Quite well, very good quality. I heard actually Razbam are preparing one for digital combat simulation as well, so that's pretty awesome. There at least you will be able to take advantage of the Harrier's full combat capabilities, not just let's check our fuel. At this point, we can actually set our right display to the navigation display. Go to menu, choose the HD, and let's check our fuel consumption. Shift 2 will be able to tell us that aircraft is ready. Therefore, it means it's not too heavy for vertical takeoff and landings. And then we'll actually stop the fuel dump. We'll verify our total fuel, which is, well, that's a bit too much, I think. I'm not sure it's capable of takeoff. Let's check our position on the island there. This is our mission. We've dropped our ordnance so the aircraft is much lighter. It says aircraft is ready. But total weight, actually this should be for vertical takeoff and landing. And we'll be using the add-on called AI carriers. We'll be actually showing you. full two carriers fleet. Should we take a full fleet? And 10 nautical miles ahead. It will take a bit to spawn. Then we'll show window and we'll tell them to move forward. After all, it's more fun when you actually have the carriers to do something instead of just being still. We'll deactivate the pilot, autopilot, and we'll check our position. We'll be doing flyby for the carriers, and we'll be making sure to check that our nozzle system is at 20 degrees at the moment. It will actually help us reduce our speed. There's the fleet, and we'll be committing to an approach. Basically, we'll be flying 150. We will turn 90 degrees and perform a descent. We can choose to land on the left and right carrier, or right carrier. We'll see what kind of ship we have available. A bunch of the cruisers and destroyers, and the actual carriers themselves. Let's see. If we follow the vertical landing maneuvers in the manual, here I will have to basically reduce it about 250 knots speed and continue my descent slowly at about 600 feet per minute. This is the usual carrier standard rate, so 600 feet per minute. As again, joystick, not joystick, Xbox 360 controllers. It's quite difficult. .398 knots. Here we'll be performing very gentle turn for about 60 degrees, 060 basically, while descending. We're at 120. If I was in an F-35, I would actually make the turns much faster. They are much faster, but and we'll be trying to stay at about 600 feet. That's our main aim here, 600 feet. As we approach the carriers, we'll be dropping our nozzles lower and lower and lower until we basically can match 30-31 knot speed on the fleet. It's a very slow turn, so okay, that's 49. Have a visual of the fleet. The fleet's right there. Turning again to 330. 320, my mistake. My math is pretty dead today, so we'll be trying to perform a vertical landing. This is not really a traffic pattern. I'm not really good at this, but I'm just trying to safely land the plane as one would expect. 3 to 3 down. 320. Okay. Let's keep this steady. Let's check. Leave someone there. Our angle of attack is 2 degrees. At this point, we will be in contact with the fleet. I don't have any WASP class amphibious assault ships, so I'm pretty much using US Navy carriers to land on. I don't know what deck configuration they're in. Probably empty deck, so yeah, it would be relatively easy to land. Here, let's up the speed more. Our throttle is about 50%. We can also use the speed brakes, of course. There's the fleet. Now we'll be turning very slowly to 320 minus 90, basically 230. And the fleet's heading is to about 190, I think, something like that. So we're descending a bit fast, but the descending is the point here, so we are preparing to land. And let's set the nozzles to 40 degrees. This is my way of landing the plane. And let's try to stabilize at 700 feet. Well, 1000 feet is also fine. Fleet is to our left. Left or right carrier? What does Mythic Cat say? Left carrier. Okay, so that's our actual target. Let's up. Give it a bit more power. Our fleet. Our target is the left carrier, as it says. Let's see which one we can make. It's gone a bit laggy again. Yeah, let's lower those nozzles even more. I'll actually use this to see the nozzles angle. 60 degrees and drop the gear. It should actually help us reduce speed. And let's put up the speed brakes. Speed brake off. Climbing a bit too much there. Due to this lag, it's a bit impossible to climb. We're at 70 knots now and descending at about 90 feet per minute. We'll try to set this. Now I can actually use the rudder like a helicopter. This is actually pretty amazing about the Harrier. So 85 knots and we are descending. Got the landing gear. And we have to point our nose down a little bit, cut the power more. 73 knots. The plane is gradually losing speed. Remember, this will be a vertical, almost vertical landing. Not sure how successful I will be, but Mythic Cat knows me better than that. She knows I can do it. I've done it before, 3 or 4 times. So. At this point I'm actually losing a lot of fuel, so I'll be much lighter for landing. I need to set my pod into the restall mode, so I can actually see the information better for this landing mode, or operational mode for the plane. Yes, I know I have very low fuel. So we will check the nozzle at least. Let's put them to 80 degrees. we're above the carrier. We don't want to basically go faster than it. So speed brake. I'm literally hovering above the carrier now, going about 55 knots. Probably this is not the correct way to land, but it's at least my way of landing this plane. And if I put the nose up, I'll be able to cut off the speed more. I don't want to climb, so my idea would be to basically maintain the nose at this and at the power, 50 knots. Put the speed brakes on again. Turn around. The fleet is right beneath us, so At this point, by the way, the aircraft actually performs a lot like a helicopter, in the sense that basically pushing forward the nose it will give you more speed, while pulling back it will cut off the speed. My aim is to actually catch up with Harrier at this point. Not properly aligned, I have to go a bit basically sideways to align with the deck. I don't want to land in the actual castle of the carrier. Okay, let's cut off the speed a little bit. We're on top of the deck now, so we'll have to be at about the same speed as the ship itself, which is about, what was it, 30-31 knots, about there. Mythica has been listening to me talking about these things for a long time, so I probably think she knows more than I do right now. Impossible. But anyway, we're above the carrier deck. Let's give it a bit more speed. I don't want to take a bath. Well, the water I assume is very nice and warm in Hawaii. I don't want to wreck the plane anyway, so 195, let's go a bit forward. I'm going to go over the escape, give it a bit more power. I'm actually landing it from the cockpit now. It's usually not something that I do. I usually land it from the outside. It's more useful for me. Let's stick a bit. Yes, I know I have to do all the selected tanks. Not too much to the side. Let's go up. Add the power a little bit more. .98 feet. Okay. We should be able to move on to the outside here now. And there we go, we've landed on the carrier. Well, apparently my whole dumping fuel strategy worked, which is actually what they normally do. And now I can actually take this plane to a parking position. I'll disengage the brakes, give it a bit of power. And set the nozzles forward. Well, that was a little bit wrong. Let's put up the brakes, lower the nozzles to 10 degrees. Let's give it a tiny bit of power. Okay, now we'll put it in place. This is an elevator. Basically here I'm not allowed to park the plane unless I want to go below deck 1. Also, we won't be parking on top of the steam catapults. That's a bit of a bad idea. parking brake is set. Let's go to the outside view and let's have them push us back to the stop the pushback system actually a bit more. I can see exactly when my tail hits the railing. Yeah, well, object collision. Apparently the railing is an object. Anyway, thanks for watching. I wasn't aware that this is going to happen. I apologize for the really weird end, but there you go. This is a little demonstration of what I can do with the Harrier. I'm still learning with it, but these carriers, unfortunately, they're not the greatest quality. So anyway, thanks for watching, and time for me to bogey the hell out of this video. Hopefully the plane wasn't too badly damaged. Bye bye.